Hello, everybody. I am Driss Ksikes. I am a writer. I'm head of the research center, Economia, which is affiliated to HM. I live in Rabat, and I mainly work on media and culture as a scholar. And I will be talking to you today about social status of innovation. Actually, I've been asking myself a question. What is it to create, to innovate in a context where such an act is considered sometimes as heretic, as nonsensical, or as inconsistent? What does it mean to innovate in a context where it's considered to be more a matter of a dream than something that is sustained by research or given birth by industry? And in order to answer this question, I decided to talk to you about 4 stations and consider these 4 stations as revealers of something that maybe tell us what is the social status of innovation in Morocco. The first station is a news that goes back to 10 years ago, of a young technician who went back to his village, was jobless, and decided that he wanted to create a small airplane. And he went to and he crafted something, and it looked like a very crafty airplane that, and he was sitting there and taking pictures, etc., etc. And when this picture was put on social networks, the commentators were laughing at him, were making a lot of jokes about this guy who thought that he could craft an airplane. when I read these comments, I felt like time didn't move, because it brought me back to the legendary Abbas ibn Farnas, who is considered historically as the first navigator, but he was a phantasmagoric navigator who never managed to fly on a plane. And this made me think that innovation is maybe a phantasmagoria. And this is a popular leitmotif, that innovation is just a phantasmagoria. This is the first status that I think about. The second station I would like to refer to is that, you know, every Friday, Muslims in my country, in different countries, go to the mosque for the ritual prayer of the Muslims. And when they go to the mosque, the imam every Friday says something that is very important and that is always assertive. He says that any word that is said while the imam is talking, would just make the prayer useless. But more than that, any innovation would be an heresy, and any heresy would lead to hell. So in the mind of people, this is a truth that is revealed by a religious authority. Moreover, when youngsters go to the school, most of the time, when they want to innovate something, they may be told to refrain their desires because they're going too far. And then this makes echo to what the imam was saying in their mind. And actually, when people create in the city, many times in the media and social media, more than before, because common expression is overwhelming, they could be considered as being too audacious, that they are sources of fitna. Fitna is a word that is used in Muslim tradition in order to mean disorder, chaos. And this is a chaos that could just fracture the social body. So the second social status of innovation is that it could be source of chaos. And that's why what is most reliable is reproduction of tradition, not reinvention of tradition. Reinvention of tradition, as Heidegger puts it, is at the heart of modernity. The third station that I want to talk to you about looks like most postmodern station, which is the one of hackathons, where young entrepreneurs, start-uppers, are doing their pitch in order to have the support of sponsors and people who could be supportive of their new ideas. But most of the time, when I look at what's happening in these gatherings that are becoming very, very happening all the time in our cities, is that we feel like it's just a game. They're not taken seriously, because actually there are few bank, finance, and industrial guys that are present there and that would take their ideas for seriously, earnestly, and then support their efforts. They are there just to play. It's a playful, it's a ground for playful discourse in order to make these young people think that they could attain their dream. And because of that, most of them now are becoming very used to go to these type of playgrounds again and again and again. They are making this sort of training all the time. But here you feel like when you are not embedded within an industrial unit or within a organization, you are not taken seriously as an innovator. And most of the time, these young people, when some of them are really very creative, they are taken seriously most of the time by international observers, maybe industrial units, maybe universities, and they are awarded there. And it's only then that sometimes we talk about them here as maybe people that we should consider more seriously. So the third status, the third social status of innovation is that it cannot be improvised. It cannot be taken solely by actors. It has to be framed. It has to be framed within organizations. Because this gives it more importance. It gives it an aura. And the problem is we're not taking seriously the fact that individuals could have extraordinary ideas. The fourth station I want to talk about, and which leads us more directly to Mahjouba, is about craftsmen. Craftsmen work a lot with artists. And when they work with artists, they're most of the time taken for just suppliers of material, of raw material. They're not considered as co-creators. Besides, craftsmen are not considered as being potentially part of the chain of values in the international organization of work. Why? Because from the protectorates and from the colonial period, we inherited the idea that this is an exotic, indigenous way of producing goods that has nothing to do with industry. And that's why there is a rupture between what we could create in crafts and what we could create in industry. And this line of division between the two is a line of division between what is instrumental within economy and which is at the heart of capitalism. And this also means that we consider that they are out of the geography of technology in the world. Techne, as you know from the Greek, means what man can create by his efforts. The techne created by the craftsman is considered out of the geography of world techne. This gives us the fourth status of innovation in our country, which is the fact that it is something that has to be related to the international chain of values. And when it is out of it, it's just considered as the product of laymen, the product of indigenous people. So maybe useful for tourists, maybe useful for exotic visitors, but certainly not to be considered within the development of technology in the world. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Driss, for your 4 stations. If I may, I would like to ask you a question. It's about something that I listened to yesterday. I listened to a short video, and I will send you the link of an artist born in Congo and who was working for 1 year in Rome. And he's talking in the Uffizi, and he's looking at the piece of ivory, crafted ivory, that goes back to the 16th century when the Portuguese went to Central Africa. And he's stating in a text of, I would say 10 minutes, but I will make it shorter. But he's making the link how actually the Renaissance movement is the moment when craft was separated from art. And that goes together with slavery, that goes together with racial differences. And that would be the kind of origin where craft and art were separated. What you were telling about the protectorat period is in fact a little bit the period when tourism was invented as a way to link so-called Western world with all the other colonies or ex-colonies, but in a very capitalistic way of thinking. So it's not directly a question, but can you see how I was linking this to what you were saying?
Yeah, definitely, Philip. Thanks so much for that. That's incredible. I mean, I think it's very good to think about this notion that has been developed by Bonaventura de Souza, epistemicide. The notion of epistemicide says exactly the same thing as the Congolese artist you're talking about. Sorry, I didn't get his name.
His name is Sami Baloshi.
Sami Baloshi. So actually, Bonaventura de Souza was saying exactly the same thing, but in a more general frame, saying that actually, if you go back to the 16th century, and then you trace back the way the Renaissance has actually coined knowledge, the way it has coined knowledge, and the way it has classified knowledge, coined and classified knowledge. It has put outside of the scope not only crafts, but also oralities, local or oral knowledge that has been created by people in the colonies, and also different know-how that were developed by. So it's a murder of knowledge and a declassification of local knowledges and local know-how. And it's exactly true to relate the beginning of tourism with the protectorate, and also to think about Casablanca art school that started actually in the 20s, and which was very much linked to the idea of design more than art, because, and not in the sense that has been developed in Germany about the link between the city and design, etc., but mainly in order to create objects and spaces that are within the laboratory of Casablanca as a laboratory for urban art. So it's very interesting to do this rereading of and critical reading of this history, because it says a lot about the way industry, economy, and the need of production, the way they have been orienting classification of knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that your 4 stations will be will be material for the 2-day think tank to think further upon. And I would like to thank you very much for this talk. And I'm very I'm sure we will come back to a lot of those aspects. Thank you.
Thanks, Philip.